Mother, can you explain women to me?
Yes, I think it's time we had this talk. But your mindset must be prepared for a complicated discussion, because women are intricate, so we must put it together, piece by piece. We first must go back to a time long ago, when the first woman walked on this planet. She had it all: perfect health, a kind and loving husband, and animals that talked to her. But unfortunately, it was not enough for her.
Why wasn't it enough?
That is a question I hope you never have to answer for the woman you love. But the answer is the same struggle every woman has, even to this day. You must seek to deeply understand this struggle, because for women it's a constant battle, even when she has everything. The first woman was the best example of this, because she didn't appreciate the logic of peace. So our Creator changed her by amplifying her desire for more security, the same desire she chased when the first bad boy appeared, and manipulated her into the promise of more through the dark side.
Wait, how was she changed?
Her perfect health was stripped away. She now started to age. Having children became difficult, and every month she is reminded of a fading fertility, along with younger women becoming competitors. As a woman goes through life, she is likely to feel less and less secure. Since she wasn't able to overcome the dark side when she had everything, and still reached for more and more, she now had to prove she could overcome it when she had less and less. Have you ever heard a woman tell a man he's insecure? Have you listened to how she says it? It is a concept men must learn through reps, but for women, they have always known it. It is built in. Men have a greater degree of choice over their life, to go lone wolf, to make themselves more desirable to the opposite sex later in life, and most importantly, an easier path to build and prep through logic. Many women jealously despise men for these capabilities, as they are harder for them to achieve, due to them having to constantly struggle with their desire for more security. In most cases, this is their curse, their ruler.
But there has to be a way to overcome the struggle, right?
Before I get to that, you must first understand the great power jealousy has over a woman, as it is her strongest emotion. It is the emotion the first bad boy played with to get her to go against the warning of the Creator, who gave her everything. But yes, there is a way. But unfortunately, most women do not want to accept that it is their responsibility to overcome this struggle by loving the language of logic, as it is required for everlasting peace. It has never been as difficult as it is today, because nearly everything women hear tells them to get more security, that they don't need no man, that they should work to get their own money, that nothing is their fault, that they should get lost in their emotions. You may have heard the popular saying, the greatest trick the devil ever pulled was convincing the world he didn't exist. This is incorrect, because the greatest trick the devil ever pulled was manipulating the first woman to chase security within the dark side. Getting lost in her emotions with no thought of accountability is the exact strategy that the devil used. That's why every singer, artist, and creator that repeats it is spreading his fire. It gives women the emotional peaks they desire, But it's like trading stocks. You can feel the ups and downs in the short term, and you can easily lose track of the long-term trend because it's so hard to zoom out. Humans, and especially women, are terrible at properly valuing long-term cost.
Hold on. What do you mean by security?
Children are security because they have the highest likelihood of taking care of you when you get old. Animals give security through unwavering love. I'm sure you've heard the saying, girls just want to have fun. This is because having fun increases the feeling of living in the moment, allowing them to easily forget about security. Her focus on beauty is due to it being nature's security blanket, because it'll always be wanted, which means it will always be rewarded. A quality home is her safe nest. Her focus on social activities is due to society being a construct, largely to provide her and her children security. Diamond signals status to the rest of the world of marriage and the guaranteed long-term security that comes with it, usually with little expectation in return these days. Excess, in shoes and everything else, changes the perception of how society will view her by looking special in multiple different ways, thus increasing security rewarded. The nature of a nice guy does nothing to offer her security. In fact, many times it's linked to losing security by giving up information and negotiation power in an effort to be honest. The nature of a bad boy signals that he can take multiple paths to find more security for her, even if it involves tricks that have worked since the beginning, such as manipulation from the dark side. And the best part of the bad boy, it's easy to blame him and avoid accountability, just like the first one, even though bad boys usually choose that path to get the attention of women. Approaching her too weakly lacks strength, so no security is offered. Approaching her too strongly feels unsafe. You must have confident energy, since that signals success. This is why nonchalant attitudes attract women, because not getting the desired outcome is no big deal. You've already succeeded enough. Think about how women react when they are losing security. Breakups, loss of beauty, loss of money. They freak out, cry, and get surgery. Losing security is the worst fear of most women. That is why once they get it, they fight to prevent going backwards.
So, what are the most important types of security?
That depends on the woman and where she is at in life. You should think of security like a pyramid. The base layer is always the same. It's physical security. And when a woman doesn't have it, she turns into a completely different entity. Look into how women operated in the Gulag Archipelago, the Black Death, the late Roman Empire, war brides, or passport bro wives. Women at large and throughout history will make massive changes to their lives for increased security. Above that is their perception of their standing in society, as society is a construct designed to provide security. On top of that is their perception of their desirability, also known as their sexual marketplace value. And the higher it is, the more security they will receive. Above those three, the order varies, but the most common are the flexible ones that serve her security in multiple ways: money, confidence, attraction, social status. There can be many more. When a woman meets you, she is always evaluating the total security you offer through this lens. That's why being a mystery works in your favor. Think of the big picture, but what it represents to her, most importantly, in the present and secondarily in the future. The past rarely matters. The most dangerous one to look out for is when she finds security in being able to manipulate you, or the feeling of it being done to her. Both of these things lead to destruction. It's just a matter of what gets destroyed. It may not be apparent at first, but over time it takes its toll on your mindset when enough reps have occurred. A slow, progressive, often barely noticeable chiseling away of your soul, future, and relationship. The men who know women well will read them based on the numerous data points available today and come up with unique angles to make women feel secure about things they have never felt before. A new feeling of security holds a greater mystery and novelty as it has never been experienced before.
But I see many women with men that don't offer much security.
Well, there are multiple reasons that might be the case. The security you see might not be valued the same as what the woman sees. Perhaps the woman already has security in the areas you see and is getting additional security in areas you don't see. Also, something that drastically changes the value of security is how it's presented. Imagine a man in the modern world going up to a woman and asking her for her number without saying anything else. Low odds of success unless he's got a significant combination of charisma and looks. Now imagine that same man having a public social media profile showing lots of things that give a woman security, slides into her DMs asking the exact same question. High odds of getting a response to continue the conversation, with a much lower threshold for charisma and looks. As the digital age has evolved, it's much safer for her to choose based on social media, where she can do a much more thorough analysis of the security you offer in private. Imagine going back a few decades ago and asking for a girl for her social media. She'd think you were weird and disqualify you on the spot. Now it's the standard. How fast and immensely technology has changed everything. We truly are living in the experimental era.
I'm so tired of online dating. What is important to do in person?
When you are meeting a woman in person, it's important to understand the value of charismatic words, as they have a way of allowing women to get lost in the moment, which means they don't have to think about security. The younger and more sheltered they have been, the easier it will be for them to get lost. Manipulation is something that cannot go unmentioned here, as it is the language of the devil and women are attracted to it when it serves them, just like how this all started. Remember the serpent's most powerful and finishing line. For God knows that when you eat from it, your eyes will be opened and you will be like God, knowing good and evil. A targeted manipulation on her reality, mixing in jealousy and the promise of more security. It is the greatest test for every woman to overcome. At what age did she overcome manipulation? At what age did she stop using it? After all, it is what got us all here in the first place. It was the spark that set fire to everlasting life for all of us. Make no mistake, manipulation is the source of sin and the most common way it spreads. It's built into women's nature to desire it because of the dark promise it offers. This is another reason why women love bad boys. The serpent was the original. When you think about presentation, think about a cat playing with string. If you just give the string to the cat, it's happy for a short amount of time. It may grab it in joy for a little while. But what happens when you play with the idea of giving it to the cat? What happens when you pull away, but not too far? The cat goes crazy because it's fun to a certain point, which depends on the quality of the string, how many times it's played with it recently, and how secure they feel with the one dangling the string.
Do women truly only desire bad boys?
So if you choose to be a nice guy and never tap into the dark side to get women, know that you're following the Creator's Son's example of treating others like you'd like to be treated. Don't fall into the trap of doing wrong just to get women, because then you'd just be repeating the first man's mistake, which was the second domino that set fire to everlasting life for all of us. Eventually you will die, and the more you manipulate, the more it burns it into your mind and habits, making it harder and harder to revert. Why would heaven have people in it that talk in a way that caused everything to go up in flames in the first place? Following the golden rule, speaking truth, loving the Lord's language of logic, talking directly should be priorities in your life, even if they don't result in success with women. I know this is easy to say, as there has never been a time on earth where manipulation has been as rampant and effective as it is now. In many arenas to succeed, it is expected. It has also evolved with us as we continually pass it on, with each little twist of the truth that we do for our own self-interest. This is a big reason you see so many issues with mental health and school shootings today. The level and amount of manipulation that people are absorbing is astronomical. Modern life is especially unfair to men, as the collective feminine desire has slowly demanded more and more, a lesson you will likely feel over and over. You will have to overcome obstacles and challenges to be truly desired, whereas a woman is born with it. It's like a game of limbo. For a woman, the bar starts high, but only moves down without surgery, or a man to hold it up for her in old age. For a man, the bar starts at the floor, and he can build contraptions to make it higher and higher. It's extremely unlikely she will ever understand the weight and impact this has on your life, especially if she's considered beautiful by a large number of men who will treat her the way she wants, when she wants. This is one of the many reasons to prioritize your relationships with great male friends that help you improve yourself.
Mother, why is jealousy so strong for women?
It is because women's nature is comparative. My baby is more beautiful than any other baby. My dog is more lovable than other people's dogs. Which party is going to be the most fun? Is she better looking than me? Do I prefer my home over the homes of my friends? How am I viewed in my community versus others? Is he really trying to talk to me as I'm working out? Doesn't he know that is not okay? He's stuttering while trying to talk to me for the first time. Doesn't he know how he sounds? How many carats is your diamond? Oh, those shoes go so well with that outfit. You need to remember the 5 main ways women compare. We compare to the market, so what we see on social media and in the society we live in. We compare to what we've had in the past. We compare to what our peers have. We compare to the options readily available right now. And most importantly, we evaluate what we should get based on what we believe our value is.
Is this like the hot, crazy matrix?
Have you ever asked yourself why there's such a strong causation pattern in it? Have you ever thought about combining it with the well-known truth, women don't do anything by accident? The root of our deliberate actions comes from a feeling we have at our core. where we are constantly reminded of what the opposite of security is. We feel vulnerable. Imagine if you woke up tomorrow and nearly every woman could physically dominate you if they wanted to. This is the reality for most women, and a big reason why we chase security so strongly. Women generally act according to what they can get away with, because if they can act crazy and get away with it, that makes them feel more secure. On top of that, it gives them strong feelings to enjoy. This is why you'll see crazy hot women struggle with settling down later in life. They used to be able to do anything they wanted because society valued their beauty enough to allow for it. But once that fades, they are forced to reevaluate all the lies they've been told about how special they are. They then go through a very frustrating experience that usually bleeds into their relationships with the men they end up with. You may have heard the saying of women hitting the wall, which most people say happens around 30. This is not as accurate as it should be. Most women hit a series of higher and higher walls unless external forces are involved. And you can see that you flip the matrix upside down. Interesting enough, this also relates to how good women are at making slow changes in relationships, death by 1,000 paper cuts. Our comparative nature is the fuel of capitalism and markets, and since the beginning of time, men have wanted to please women, often above pleasing the Creator for the intimate benefits they receive. Just like the first man, imagine a world of just men. Would there be the same need to group up in large amounts into cities? Or would there be more self-sufficient groups that go off-grid and trade together, living in nature and only requiring the basics?
I do see women compare things with their eyes a lot.
You must not underestimate the speed, direction, and depth a woman sees with. Her peripherals are much better than the average man because she has a heightened sense of vulnerability, which leads to many more reps of working on it. Many women train themselves to look into their periphery without moving their eyes. I'm sure you've heard the saying that's usually about mothers having eyes on the back of their head. The speed at which women can judge attractiveness and social standing from a distance is directly connected to this. But by far her greatest advantage with her vision is how well she can read a man's desire and emotional state through his eyes. The slightest change can set off alarms or give her enough security to make a move. She's been practicing her whole life. Whereas most men today are scared to look into a woman's eyes. You must force yourself to do it, because the more reps you have, the better you will become at reading women. Beautiful women are constantly reminded of what men will do for her, simply by comparing their stares. When women are in relationships, they are constantly challenged with the urge to compare what they have against what these looks could give them. It is easy to get lost, especially if they no longer get this gaze from their man. It is even easier to get lost if the new man is confident, manipulative, attractive, rich, and charming. You may have heard a line from the Supergirl movie when she talks about Superman. He sees the good in everyone, and I see the truth. This is speaking to this capability.
Mother, you keep talking about feelings. Is that the next part?
You're catching on quickly, yes. Our feelings rule us by default. But there's a massive problem with feelings. They decay, kind of like a radioactive element. I feel good knowing my children are more beautiful than others. I feel secure being around animals that only love me, just like everyone should. I feel satisfied by receiving the benefits of being more beautiful than other women. I feel better about how I've done in life because my home is better than my friends. I feel pleased with my standing in my community compared to others. I feel open if the man that I desire approaches me the way that I want. But he has to figure out what that is, and if he does, then I will reward him. I feel special because I have a diamond ring that is better than my friends. I feel unique because I have the right outfit for every occasion. Nice guys only let me feel one side of the spectrum of feelings. Bad boys allow me to feel the dark side, and if something goes wrong, it's his fault. The strength of feelings is highest at 2 points, in anticipation and when acquisition occurs. After that, feelings decay.
What do you mean by decay?
The rate of decay is unique for every woman, and this is why it's so important to be able to measure and understand it. It is the most important factor for you to evaluate when choosing a long-term partner and applies to her in all states, especially when she is drunk and her inhibitions have been removed. The best way to evaluate the rate of decay is by giving women as little as possible and seeing how quickly her feelings change. The more you give, the more you are artificially producing feelings within her. This is how you find out which women truly value you, the ones that give more than they receive. There are many components that determine the rate of decay, but the most important one is the frequency and duration of the beliefs she practices. How much and how often is it all about her, compared to it being about others? Earlier I told you about the greatest trick ever pulled. Another way to look at it is this. The greatest trick the devil ever pulled was tricking women into believing they would be happier if they got more for themselves, rather than loving others above themselves. The happiest women I know have big families, good relationships with their partners, and have practiced controlling their emotions for a very long time. Families are power plants of feelings of comparative security. These women don't get lost in the peaks. They see the long-term value of consistency.
How can I tell if she sees a certain type of security in me, like attraction?
You can tell by her not talking about how other men are attractive, by her not looking elsewhere for attraction. But this is hard to do, because many times she keeps it hidden in fear of society shunning her for it. Society tells you that it's men's responsibility to be romantic, men's responsibility to sacrifice, men's responsibility to serve, men's responsibility to be stable and consistent, men's responsibility to get down on one knee, men's responsibility to do nearly everything. All these things are beneficial to women because it removes expectations from them. The one that is most important for women is to be stable and consistent, because they are the greatest energy source on the planet, and the men that absorb this pure energy are able to channel their logical building skills at a much greater rate than those that do not have such partners. Men have higher degrees of problem-solving skills due to them not having to overcome their feelings constantly, and problem-solving requires men to change depending on the types of problem components they are encountering.
So it's really all about your feelings of comparative security.
Yes, but don't go to a woman and tell her that, because she will likely feel less secure after you say it. Most women want to believe they are a special snowflake, as that makes them feel more secure about their value in society. You must realize that most women do not understand themselves, and if they are in a particularly emotional state, then no logic will make sense. Only words that will make her feel more secure will. For many women, everything is a negotiation. So when women say one of the many variations of, "It's not enough," that's just them saying it to keep their negotiation position in the most favorable location. Words are cheap, but they are effective at slowly changing social norms that eventually tilt the scales and become powerful forces of leverage. It's all part of the destructive mindset that everything is a negotiation so that I can get more for myself. But if you only remember 4 words from this, remember feelings of comparative security. It is our mental fuel. It is what drives us at our very core. It is our default state that we have to overcome if we want to use logic, and the more we try, the easier it becomes. We can talk later about how to identify women who have done this work effectively. When our cumulative feelings of security are positive, we give back through our actions. Unfortunately, modern society has convinced us that this state is a weakness. It has been burned into our brains to make this cost as much as possible. Perhaps I will tell you why this has happened another time. When we are in giving mode, it is hard for us to get out of it, as our desire to give back is overflowing to those that are providing these feelings. But we are also extremely vulnerable in this state, because it will hurt so much to go from feeling so good to feeling so bad. The drop-off can cause us to feel physical pain.
Physical pain? I can understand why you seek security so much.
Some women only enter giving mode once in their life and never go back due to the memory of that pain of lost security. As a man receiving this, it is extremely easy to take it for granted, as it is the greatest energy source on the planet. It heals you, strengthens you, and allows you to reach heights you were unable to achieve before. Women who choose self-preservation over contribution are often limiting their own lives. High achievers realize that the cynical view of giving is false. Generosity is actually the foundation of a fulfilling life. The best part of falling down is finding out who you'll be when you get up. Never giving again keeps her on the floor and prevents her from using her greatest gift, giving pure energy to those who deserve it. The true challenge is desiring a good man, giving him that energy, and valuing the long-term results it offers. If only the first woman who walked this planet chose this path. This is why a father will likely love his daughter much more than his son. He received her purest feminine energy without quarrel, under his control and guidance. This gives him the energy required to go out into the world and get as much as possible for her. It is also his greatest test to not teach her manipulation and greed, as those things will destroy most women. Typically, he gets energy from his son through pride, which is part of the loop of burning, as it shares the same fire as manipulation. When our collective feeling of security is negative, we switch into negative giving, also known as manipulation, and do things like claiming you said things you never did, constantly distracting until you give up, using our feelings to make you feel guilty, twisting the truth, poking at weak spots inside of you, and anything else we can think of to artificially create our own feelings and shift blame to avoid accountability, which is the opposite of security.
What do I do when women treat me like this?
That is the best question you have asked so far. You must first use logic to determine if you did something wrong. If you did, then you need to take accountability and make changes. If you did not, you need to tell her that you did nothing wrong and then ignore her until she overcomes her feelings and respects your logic. Do not let her methods bait you into arguing, raising your voice, or saying something stupid, as this is often a trick to gain more ammunition or worse, to make herself feel secure in leaving you for another. If she does not respect your logic, then you must walk away peacefully. If you are consistent with this, she will respect you, but she will never tell you this. She wants you to figure it out and wants to get away with as much as possible until you do, because in her mind, it's your responsibility as a man. When she is in this state, you have to pretend she is a little girl arguing with her father. This is why it's so important to deeply understand how her father raised her, or how she imagined it. But you must be willing to risk losing her to another man, who will give her the feelings she desires until they run out again. This is easy to say, but very hard to do, especially if you truly love her.
Something still doesn't make sense to me if it's all about security. Why do I see so many women with jerks?
Well, it's not all about security. It's about the feeling of comparative security. This is a common mindset limitation you must overcome. Nearly every complicated problem has multiple factors to it. You should be wary of people that try to oversimplify such problems. Instead, you should seek to understand each element, how they work, their conditions, and how they affect each other. Jerks that don't have much security to offer aren't even seen by women, they are ignored. If a man has enough security to offer, being a jerk usually works in his favor in the short term, as long as he dangles the string correctly. The smart jerks never give the woman complete feelings, or at least don't give them for long, because it prevents the woman's feelings from decaying by providing the roller coaster they desire. It leaves the woman thinking, what would it be like if he stayed consistent? Many women say they want a consistent man, but what they truly desire is a roller coaster of emotions. The men that know how to provide it are the ones they stay with. And when a jerk is being a jerk, it pushes her down. But the key is, it allows her to feel the up feeling she craves so much shortly afterwards. Sadly, this same concept is sometimes used physically, which you should never do, even if you are hit first, except if you absolutely need to for self-defense. This is another example of manipulation, and it burns many things. The most costly is teaching your children the same patterns, while slowly eroding your relationship as the fire keeps spreading back and forth. Remember that your best responses to unruly women are to ignore them, and then if things get bad enough, walk away. Do not repeat the first man's mistake. Do not believe for 1 second that God created marriage. Men created marriage. God created a man and a woman and gave them everything, and it still didn't work out. Do not be so hard on yourself when you don't succeed with women. It's the only thing that hasn't gone to plan in the whole universe.
Technology has to have changed some of this, though. Right?
Absolutely. Technology has dissected every element and amplified it through sheer repetition, imprinting itself on the collective consciousness of women and sparking an unprecedented transformation. An immense amount of emotional content, especially in short form, trains feelings to change rapidly, allowing for women to experience a number of emotional situations that would have taken their ancestors multiple lifetimes to achieve. The Internet has shown, in vicarious detail, the great effects of wealth and beauty. Many new paths to security have been opened, because every profile is a global dating or prostitution resume. The combination of these things has evolved women's emotional state into uncharted territory. Imagine for a moment that you are playing your favorite video game from many years ago. Your mind takes you back. You remember the details about the map, items, and mechanics. It's almost as if you're playing it right now. Women have the same ability, but their video game is society. They remember exactly how things were said, from movies, reality TV, and their past, to get the desired outcome. They remember how the game is balanced through social norms and structures, and they've been playing their whole lives. Have you heard the song by Rihanna? Where have you been? This is a call for someone to understand her at a level she has never experienced before. Women today tend to want to simply put the blame on men for not understanding them enough. This is a big reason women use manipulation and jump from partner to partner for the immediate influx of feelings they experience, rather than making changes to slow their own rate of feeling decay. Both of these things work in the short term, but only leave her in ashes in the long run. You will often find that in a relationship, one partner does all the changing, while the other simply talks about it. Change is an integral part of love, just like how our Creator changed for us. For God so loved the world that He gave His only begotten Son.
That was a lot. How do I remember all of this?
You've probably heard it before. Women just say what they feel. This is partially correct. When in their default mode, women use their words as tools to make themselves feel comparatively secure about the psychological concepts embedded within. This is why 80% of psychology majors are women. And sadly, this tendency is often turned into a weapon to make you feel a certain way, so that you do their bidding and provide them more feelings of security. Let me say that again, in a different way, as it's the most important concept to understand. Anytime a woman says something, you need to ask yourself, is she saying that to make herself feel comparatively secure about something? Is she saying that to try and get me to do something to give her more feelings of security? The more things have been given to her throughout her life, the higher likelihood she is to stay in this mode, which means the more beautiful she is, the more likely she is to stay in this default mode. This is why studies with women respondents can't be taken seriously, because there's a high chance she's choosing what to say to make her feel more secure in that moment without properly weighing all factors, especially long-term ones. Remember the words of Benjamin Franklin: those who would give up essential liberty to purchase a little temporary safety deserve neither liberty nor safety. Because when you trade liberty for temporary security, You weaken the foundations that provide lasting security, thus resulting in losing both.
I still don't get it. Can you give me an example?
Let's say I ask you, what do you want to eat? You are going to think about it. You are going to remember you had Mexican food yesterday, so you don't want that. You consider a sandwich. Then you remember you are trying to avoid bread. These are reps of logic, and over a man's lifetime, he tends to get better and better with them, figuring out what works best. A woman, in her default mode, is asked, "What do you want to eat?" She feels presented with a problem. She feels overwhelmed and doesn't want to overcome it to get into logic mode. She feels compelled to go with an easy out. She says, "Whatever you want." This is perfect because it shifts logical responsibility and accountability back to the person asking. Let's say he says, "How about Italian?" She responds with, "No, I don't feel like that." The bottom line is she wants you to figure her out, figure out what she would like to eat without having to do anything. She wants to just stay in the magical world where everything is figured out perfectly for her and she can feel everything it offers, just like the first woman who walked on this planet. And it's in a man's nature to continually do what a woman wants. It's been handed down for generations, ever since the first man chose to be a simp. This is the greatest challenge you will face on this earth. To conquer the power your eyes have over you when you see a beautiful woman. To put your deep love for your partner below the Lord's language of logic.
I remember a time when I asked my girlfriend what she wanted to eat, and she said, "I thought you said you were the best at choosing restaurants."
This is a good example. The key is her intent, which only she knows. She may have been trying to appeal to your pride to get you to feel responsible, so you will figure it out. She also may have been simply trying to deflect, having to think. This is a mild example of how women use their emotional nature to manipulate you for their own benefit. But there are many more ways this occurs. It can cut very deep without you even realizing. A woman who truly loves you and respects you will not do this, because she knows that you will not tolerate it and will walk away. She desires a man that has this capability, but that also offers an acceptable level of security. She will not create chaos where there is peace. The best way to detect this is by closely monitoring the tone of her voice. Remember what Peter said about this, the imperishable quality of a gentle and quiet spirit, which is of great worth in God's sight.
But they can just jump back to logic whenever they want, right?
Liebchen. If only it were that easy. What you seek lies in front of you, as does what you fear. In order for women to take the path of logic, they must overcome what they love most. And for most, they will never acknowledge it must be done. An everlasting truth. Each feeling must be overcome. This includes the consequences of choosing feelings above logic in the past. In this situation, after saying whatever you want and I don't feel like that, she must first admit, at least to herself, that she wasn't being a good partner and that she deliberately did not speak the truth. This is the way to overcome. It will not be easy, since our brains are wired to avoid accountability, due to our vulnerability, due to our instinct, just like the first woman. You may have heard the saying, men's brains are like waffles, structured and compartmentalized. Easy to stack, easy to work together, because they're wired to use logic by default. A woman's brain is like spaghetti, each noodle representing a feeling. Instead of understanding these emotions and straightening them out, women tend to want to throw sauce on it and marvel at its beauty. The divorce rate of marriages between a woman and a woman is roughly double compared to marriages between a man and a man. If you decide to marry a woman and a divorce occurs, know that there is roughly a 70% chance that she will be the one initiating it. Have you realized that the two most powerful men in the world are passport bros? All of these things are due to Western society encouraging women to stay in their default state for most of their lives. What you must learn to identify above all else are the women on the extreme side of this spectrum. These women have become black holes, stuck in the mode of consumption. These women will create chaos when there is peace, because they find security in it. Because they have practiced using it to distract and avoid accountability. And most importantly, because they have practiced enjoying how it feels. You must avoid these women at all costs. Remember, women don't do anything by accident, because of our vulnerability. Everything is emotionally calculated. You must not be blinded by your eyes and think these women give something, because what is actually happening is they only are reacting to what they are consuming. I hope by now you can see the fundamental differences between men and women, and how critical it is to think of women as a different species, almost like an alien. Believing in blind equality in all things only opens the door to pain and being taken advantage of.
But Mother, you aren't like this, though, right?
Why do you think I raised you to be a nice guy? Even though I worship your father of lies.